Mr. Chair, members, to begin with, we accept the committee's amendments to the bill. I'm highlighting that this bill is jointly authored by Assemblymember Tony Thurmond, who had a schedule conflict and could not join me this afternoon. California is home to 18 Major League sports teams in 6 different leagues with millions of fans throughout the state. This bill establishes the sports franchise license plate program, which would allow those teams to opt into a program providing their logo for use on a specialty California license plate. According to the DMV, there are more than 400,000 specialty plates in use today in our state. Through initial and renewal fees, these plates provide millions of dollars in funding to respective causes, to their respective causes. 26 other states, as well as the District of Columbia, already offer specialized license plates that display logos of professional sports franchises. This legislation will provide an easy and popular way for California drivers to show their support for their favorite teams while also potentially contributing badly needed funds toward local parks and recreation programs in our state.
Move the bill.
Thank you very much. With me is Andrew Governor, representing both Major League Baseball and the National Football League. Andrew, anything you'd like to add?
Andrew Governor, on behalf of California's 5 Major League Baseball teams and the San Francisco 49ers, support the concept of the bill and appreciate working with Assembly Members Daley and Thurman on fine-tuning the legislation, and we'll be working with them on making sure that the licensing agreements through the home offices are taken care of, and then just the funding stream. So, thank you.
The bill has been double referred. It goes to the Arts and Entertainment Committee, assuming it gets out of this committee. The bill honestly has a lot of work remaining, a lot of details to be worked out.
Any other members of that you'd wish to testify, Mr. Daley? On the,
I don't think so.
Did I?
We're okay.
Any members of the public like to wish to testify in support of the bill? Any members of the public that would like to testify in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, any members of the committee that have any questions? Mr. Chu. Mr. Chu.
Go Sharks.
Second.
Thank you.
Uh-oh,
now it starts.
Mr. Bloom.
Don't start it.
True, it is opening day at Dodger Stadium.
Day.
And
just saying. But I do have a couple of substantive comments that I want to make. I will be voting to move this forward. I want to make sure that the idea of licensing the images for commercial ventures, which is essentially part of what's going on here, brings back appropriate revenue for whatever purpose it's ultimately used for. This is, I think, going into new territory here with the specialty plates, because all of the plates that we've had before have been a public, sort of a public image,
yeah.
And that image or that plate is then deriving revenue for either the Coastal Conservancy or a number of different agencies or entities throughout the state of California. We have the opportunity here to bring in revenue above and beyond that which members of the public pay just for the license plate. There is value, at least I would think that there is value, and it could be significant value that's that this brings to the business interests that will benefit from the plates, and we ought to maximize that for the state. The second issue that I want to just raise is my understanding is that the proposal as it stands right now is for the revenue to be distributed to local communities for use in local parks, and that's certainly a worthy cause in the state, but I'm not sure how much money this is. There's a few, I think, sub-issues. Right. One is I'm not sure how much revenue this is going to bring in, and if you break it, we have so many local governments throughout the state. If you start breaking it down into smaller amounts of money, it may not really have the kind of impact that you're intending for it to have. But the larger issue for me is that there are already a number of very worthy causes for which the specialty plates pour money into. And I'm not sure why we want to open another one instead of dividing the revenue from this plate in some kind of formula into the existing needs, which are also very hard. And I would add one additional item, and that is that I think in the current proposal, state parks would be the agency that
Would be the applicant.
distributes the money to the various local governments. State parks, at this point in time, as the chair of the budget subcommittee that oversees state parks, I can tell you state parks is an agency that is reorganizing itself and doing so in, I think, a good way to achieve its mission. I'm not sure that adding another function to its plate right now is necessarily the right direction to go here. But again, that's just something I think to be looked at and discussed.
Yeah, the Assemblymember Thurman and I believe there will be people who will be interested in buying these plates who would not buy any other plate. We don't view it as competing against Yosemite or Tahoe or any of the other the traditional nonprofit beneficiaries of this. It's really modeled on what's happening in other states. Florida, for example, these are wildly popular programs. So if it works pretty well in other states, chances are it'll work pretty well in California. The challenge is the threshold. The DMV threshold is 7,500 plates for any program before the program is alive, so to speak. There have to be 7,500 applicants for the specialty plate. Some of these sports teams in California may not choose to market the program, or even if they market it, might not sell 7,500 plates. So even though we have 18 sports teams, which is potentially a lot of activity and a lot of revenue, some of those 18 teams might choose not to participate because it's optional, or they might not reach that threshold. Regarding the revenue, it's hard to predict the revenue for that reason. But I think it's worth a try, and as I said, we have a lot of details to work out with the Major League sports organizations, who will be very, very careful about royalties and about their branding and so forth. So, but it's worked well in other states, so we thought it was worth a try here. We like the idea of returning monies to local communities. Mr. Thurman is from Oakland. I'm from Anaheim. If the funds go to the state park system and stay there, that's one approach, which I think would be all right. But we also like the idea of creating some pockets of money for local communities to compete for parks funds, for local urban parks, say. So that's still to be worked out, and there are other worthy possibilities as well for the revenue. But until we work out the details with Major League Baseball and the NFL, this has a ways to go.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. And thank you for the questions, Mr. Bloom. Thank you.
And for the record, you said there was 18 professional sports teams, and we were doing it in our heads right here, and I think we got to all 18 of them. But as a long, lifelong Dodger fan, I'd really like to support this bill, and it's Dodger season starts today. I'd love to be added as a co-author if you'd like it.
Mr. Garcia.
I just want to say that Assemblymember Bloom raises some good questions. I certainly support the concept to enhance revenues for park and recreation programs statewide, and I think you kind of conflicted me. Now I'm torn between the Salton Sea license plate and my favorite baseball team.
That's right. Do you have two cars? And we're including the women's NBA, by the way. So
any other questions of the author from the committee? Mr. Daly.
Thank you.
I will be supporting your bill, but we do have a proliferation of especially license plates out there, and they've got trouble with existing specialized plates meeting the 7,500 threshold, as you've mentioned.
Yep.
Currently, the Snoopy plate is at 5,100 and change. The organ donor is only 729, and there was 5 new programs enacted last year alone. And so I'm hoping that this has an opportunity. We don't want to leave any opportunity on the table for revenue, as Mr. Eduardo Garcia had said. But I wish you the best, and it will be a work in progress for your bill to actually get through.
It truly is.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I look forward to, hopefully, you being successful with that. And Madam Secretary, will you please call roll?
Thank you.
Vote.
The motion is a do pass as amended to the Assembly Committee on Arts, Entertainment, Sports, Tourism, and Internet Media. Frazier.
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Ashajian.
Aye.
Ashajian, aye. Baker.
Aye.
Baker, aye. Bloom. Bloom, aye. Campos. Campos, aye. Chu. Chu, aye. Daly.
Aye.
Daly, aye. Dodd. Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Kim.
Aye.
Kim, aye. Linder. Linder, aye. Medina. Medina, aye. Melendez. Melendez, aye. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye. O'Donnell.
Your bill is out. It's 14-0. We'll
Thank
keep the roll open for absent members. Congratulations,
Thank you all.
Mr. Daly.
Thank you all.
Ms. Baker, Assembly Bill 1284. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I'm pleased to present to you today AB 1284. This bill would make the Toll Bridge Oversight Committee, or I'll just call it the Toll Bridge Committee, subject to the Bagley Clean Open Meetings Act, so its meetings will be transparent and open to the public. The Toll Bridge Committee provides project oversight and project control for the Toll Bridge Seismic Retrofit Program in California. This oversight and management includes the new east span of the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge. As part of Interstate 80, the Bay Bridge carries over 240,000 vehicles a day, and the reconstruction of the Bay Bridge's eastern span was the largest single public works project in state history, costing roughly $6.5 billion. A variety of problems with the bridge during construction and after increased the cost nearly 4.5 times the amount originally projected. There are continued problems plaguing the bridge. They're working hard on it, but those problems are serious and include broken rods, leaks in the steel structure, cracked welds, misaligned road decks, all that need to be fixed with the funds collected from bridge toll income. In fact, just this last weekend it was reported one of the rods has been found to be cracked that supports the bridge. These problems alone are troubling, but they're made worse by the serious problem that we've seen throughout the process, and that's the transparency lacking in the oversight of the bridge, both during construction and after. Last year, the Senate Transportation and Housing Committee held a series of informational meetings on issues surrounding the development and construction of the Bay Bridge. 3 independent reports, one from Caltrans, one from the Legislative Analyst's Office, and one entitled the DeWalk Report, all shared a strong concern that the project's lack of transparency to the public was causing great harm to its overall fixes for the Bay Bridge. In fact, Roland DeWalk, who's here today, he's the investigative reporter hired by the Senate, identified as the #1 recommendation going forward that the oversight of the bridge be transparent and subject to open meetings. As Mr. DeWalk stated in his report to the committee, quote, no public agency, including this Toll Bridge Committee, should be exempt from basic open government laws such as the Brown Act or the Bagley-Keene Open Meetings Law. The persistent concerns about transparency surrounding the Bay Bridge have undermined the public's trust in our ability to do any public works project with competency and accountability. We have a chance to fix that. We can't fix the construction problems with this bill, but we can fix one of the great concerns and challenges that we learned throughout this process. The committee will continue to provide oversight of the Toll Bridge Seismic Retrofit Program until its completion, which is not expected to be before 2018. So we have quite a bit more time going forward where we need to have these meetings transparent. The bill very simply makes the Toll Bridge Committee subject to the Bagley-Keene Open Meetings Act. I've made an amendment to the bill suggested by committee staff. I have copies of them and appreciate the good committee amendments. They do clarify that it's the Bagley-Keene Open Meetings Act to which the oversight authority will be subject. This bill is necessary because they're not subject to any open meeting regulations at all right now. The committee did adopt last year its own internal open meetings policy for the first time in its almost 10 years of existence, but the policy is not sufficient. It actually leaves within sole discretion of the committee members whether any meetings should be public or closed, and it also allows the committee to expunge its own record, so there would be no record of meetings happening or findings. And I think the public deserves better transparency than that, especially in California, where voters have regularly showed us, our constituents have showed us, they support open meetings. So with the essential function that transparency has for accountability and the problems we've already seen where it hasn't been available in the Bay Bridge project, I strongly ask for your support of this bill and respectfully will answer any questions that you have.
So we'll go on to any member of the public that wants to continue testimony in support of the bill. Please state your name and if what agency you support.
Yep. Yes, come on up. This is Mr. DeWalk. Please join me.
Mr. DeWalk, time, if we cannot duplicate what Ms. Baker said, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you all for considering this bill. My name is Roland DeWalk. I'm the independent investigative journalist with almost 40 years experience in this profession. Most of my reporting has been about California. As mentioned earlier, the Senate employed me in 2013 to examine why the Bay Bridge took so long to build and why it cost so much. We found that the law itself may have been one of the major contributing factors to the flaws in the bridge, to the enormous expense because of this extraordinary exemption. I don't think there's any other piece of legislation in those 50 years that have been exempted from Bagley-Keene as was the Bay Bridge. And one of the and lacking that bright light of public scrutiny allowed so much secrecy that the bridge inflated in its cost by 4 to 5 times as much. In fact, this bridge will probably cost, with the latest examination of MTC documents, still an additional at least $160 million just to fix the flaws that they know about. The most critical of those flaws, of course, being the welds that actually hold that bridge together. A lot of those problems were available to press and public before, but were brushed aside and then kept secret by the TB-POC because of this extraordinary exemption to Bagley-Keene and to the Brown Act for local legislation. And then when people did bring it up, they were not only covered up, but they were punished, again, as part of this whole culture of secrecy that surrounded the bridge. If the TB-POC and those who are going to be governing this bridge would continue to be able to decide not only when to hold secret meetings, but even more incredibly, I would say, pardon me, to be able to expunge records of meetings. I can't imagine anything else in California that even begins to approach this. So I heartily support this legislation, and I applaud Assemblywoman Baker for bringing this to your attention.
Any other members of the public that would like to testify in support of this bill? Any members of the public that would like to testify in opposition to this bill? Ms. Baker, transparency in this government is not always easy, but we have to strive for it. So I will be supporting your bill, and thank you very much for taking the clarifying amendments moving forward. And we know that this is only going to last another 3 years with the dismantling of the Bay Bridge. So again, thank you for bringing it forward. Madam Secretary, would we...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Call the roll. Would you like to close? I'm sorry.
Respectfully request your aye vote. Thank you.
Got it.
No.
Excuse me, I'm all rattled. Any members of the committee would like to ask any questions?
No, we're ready to move.
Do we have a motion or a second?
Move the bill.
So we have Mr. Dodd as a first, and who do we have a second? Ms. Kim is second. Go second. For the Dodgers. So, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is a do pass as amended to the Local Government Committee. Frazier.
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Ashajian.
Aye.
Ashajian, aye. Baker.
Aye.
Baker, aye. Bloom. Bloom, aye. Campos. Campos, aye. Chu. Chu, aye. Daly. Daly, aye. Dodd. Dodd? Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia? Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez? Kim?
Aye.
Kim, aye. Linder? Linder, aye. Medina? Medina, aye. Melendez? Melendez, aye. Nazarian? Nazarian, aye. O'Donnell? O'Donnell, aye.
15-0, then bill moves out. We'll leave the roll open for a few minutes for absent members, if there are any. Just run through with the members that we do have here to catch up, and sergeants, if there were, we'll let you know who to give calls to.
On the consent calendar, Melendez? Melendez, aye. Nazarian? Nazarian, aye. The vote is 15-0. File item 6, AB 643, Nazarian. The motion is a do pass as amended to aging and long-term care. Bloom? Aye. Bloom, aye. The vote is 15-0. File item 9, AB 869, Cooper. The motion is a do pass as amended to appropriations. Nazarian? Aye. Nazarian, aye. The final vote is 15-0.
Do we have any absent members whatsoever? So we have
643. Yeah, he just voted. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, members. This meeting of the Transportation Committee for the Assembly is adjourned.